Boy, today we get to see a couple of perps who find themselves at a very interesting dead end. Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed badge cam lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm your host, John Carrillo.
I'm your co-host, Mike Williver. Today's video comes to us from beautiful Santa Ana, California.
Download the ASP Unlimited app for all the content you love from Active Self-Protection and more with no interference from YouTube. No ads, no age gates, exclusive videos, seminars, classes, and more on iOS, Android, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, and Android TV. Hit the link in the description or download ASP Unlimited from your app store today.
Go and read the news stories that I've linked on this one in the description. This guy that police are following onto the pier at Newport Beach, he murdered his girlfriend and they found her in the car, and then they used his cell phone to locate him. They chased him hither and yon through Southern California all morning long. This started like 3:30 in the morning. They really pinned him down about 6:30 in the morning. Then they chased him, and he's going to decide to go onto the pier here. I'm not sure if he's going to try to like Bo and Luke Duke it, if that was his initial plan, or if, I mean, obviously he's not the greatest forward-thinking planner in history already. Gonna pass all these people. I mean, look at a whole crowd of people here. Thankfully, he drives by them at medium speed. Then he is gonna jump out, and when he jumps out, shots are going to be fired by the bunches at him. Because as the copter comes around here, you're gonna see, they filled this guy full, and I mean full of lead, because he came out with the gun in his hand, and you can see as it refocuses on him that he still has that gun in his hand. It took them quite a while to get him into custody from that point. Let's listen into what the badge cams have to show us here. This is a picture of the gun that he was carrying at the time and had in his hand. Thankfully, no officers were hurt. None of the bystanders there on the pier were hurt either. Our bad guy took the Newport Beach Pier Temperature Challenge, and that is how this one ends. I mean, dude, the one that means all these people are just fishing. They're like, oh man, this is interesting. Look at all these cops showing up. People, move! You know, Mike, we say this all the time, that we're not generally big fans of a lot of police chases because of how dangerous they are to the community. But this one at low speed, and given the nature that this guy is wanted for an active murder, this is probably one they need to do.
Yeah, every time we mention the idea that we're not big fans of police chases, we get a lot of feedback in the comments, and frequently that feedback is, well, if we don't pursue, you know, the bad guys find out about that and then they just run and we have a whole mess on our hands. And yeah, there is some truth to that. However, if you're the person out there who, you know, a 15-year-old in a stolen car kills your family accidentally by running into them during a pursuit, and those were the only potential charges, you're going to take great umbrage with the fact the constabulary continued that pursuit. So that's kind of what we mean by that. Look, I really wish, by the way, they had some stanchions, what do they call them? The bollards at the end of this pier so we couldn't have made it down. But here we are at the end of the pier. And now all these bystanders have to process, oh my God, what is happening right now?
Yeah, no kidding. And listen, here's just a clue for all of us private citizens. When you see a whole bunch of cops, lights and sirens chasing a car, you don't want to stand around and think, wow, that's interesting. I wonder what's about to happen, because I guarantee you what's about to happen is going to be dangerous to you. I don't care if it ends up like this does, in felony stop and a lot of bullets flying. I don't care if that guy decides he's going to yeet himself and his car off the end of the pier. There is no context for this that is not dangerous for you. So standing around and watching it, Mike, is the dumbest thing to do. You want to be moving feet, even if that means jumping in the drink.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, look, we're not giving them too hard of a time, but at the same time, if this is you, if you see, you know, the end of termination of a pursuit, the guy's running for a reason. Just assume the worst and get the heck out of Dodge as fast as you can. A lot of these folks did skedaddle pretty quickly. A couple of these guys, it took them way too long to figure out what was going on. Now, did the shooting happen very quickly after the termination of the pursuit? Yes, it happened very quickly. But this is just one of those things we want you as the average everyday person out there living life in the world to understand the end of a pursuit like this is a very dangerous place to be and a very unique setting on the end of a pier. But as John said, jumping in the water sucks. It's probably cold, but it beats the ever-living heck out of getting shot accidentally by the cops.
Yeah, you saw the guy that was to the right. Now he'd be to the left, kind of, off to the passenger side of the car. He got farther left to the edge of the pier and dropped. The guy who is literally right in the line of fire, he drops right behind his fishing gear. So I want to make a point here, Mike, about the difference in backstop. The officer in the lead car on the driver's side, if you think about his backstop, it's pretty clear. But the passenger officer on the car on our left to the rear, the difference in angle there, his backstop is literally right on that private citizen. So just because your partner has a good backstop or just because they have a bad backstop means nothing about your backstop. This can be determined by literally just minutes of angle. So you got to check your own backstop here to see if it's safe for you to fire.
For those of you who've never picked up a gun or fired a gun before, what John's trying to explain here in layman's terms is if I'm pointing a gun in this direction, just this much movement, just the slightest bit of movement on my part, the further out that projectile goes, the further right or left it's going to go, depending on the angle of the way I'm holding my gun. So as a law enforcement officer, as John said, it's critical, absolutely critical, that you determine independently that there's an objective deadly threat that you have to deal with, right? And then independently what your field of fire is. So if your partner is firing, you've determined, okay, this is someone who needs shooting, and your partner is shooting. Just because he or she is shooting and has a good backstop doesn't mean that you do. So again, along with independently coming to the conclusion as a deadly threat, you have to make sure your field of fire is safe and that there's nothing really bad in the backstop.
You just have to make sure of that. It's just part and parcel of what you do. And Mike, okay, all right, bad guy has a gun in his hand. We see that very clearly here. Why did they shoot him up a whole bunch? Because this guy's wanted for murder and he jumped out with a gun in his hand. Meets Tennessee versus Garner all day long. Now, let's think about here. This is in our lead car, and I want to see the officer on the right, which actually is the driver officer, but it's looking at the passenger officer. The passenger officer's badge, his actions are on camera. And he runs his gun dry. It happens, right? Why did you shoot 18 times, officer? Because that's all I had in the magazine. Now, he didn't kind of notice that for a minute, and that's pretty normal too. But as Bob taught us from Sesame Street, right? How do we check that in the moment? Well, 17 of these things belong together. 17 of these things are kind of the same, but one of these things is doing its own thing. Now it's time to play our game. When you feel that difference in recoil impulse, that's a clue. Oh man, I need to reload the gun.
If you ever taken an actual in-person class from John, you'll know that his singing, it's a big part of it. Children's nursery rhymes, all kinds of crazy stuff. So check him out live if you ever get the chance. Come to the conference. Anyway, listen, I want to point another thing out here really quick. I think John covered the need to reload pretty extensively in song. I want to say, I think some people are going to watch this and go, wow, the police were awfully quick to shoot. There's a reason for that. They already believe this person to be a murderer. Now this person's getting out of a car with a gun in their hand. They can't wait around to see if he's going to turn and face them or, God forbid, start shooting into this crowd of people. I don't think they were trigger happy. I think they were well disciplined and really well trained, perceived the threat very quickly and acted very quickly, which is exactly what I want out of my police officers.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real easy way this doesn't happen if the guy just doesn't jump out with a gun in his hand, right? Hey, felons, I know that there are a few people who are felonious absconders who are in this channel. It's the name of my new indie band, by the way. And recognize that if you get out with a gun in your hand, you meet the standard of Tennessee versus Garner if you are fleeing immediately from a felony with a gun in your hand. There's a great chance the cops are going to fill you full of lead. So just leave the gun in the car. If you feel like running off and jumping in the drink and seeing if you can swim faster than they can chase you, hey, knock yourself out. But not a great thing to get out with a gun in his hand. I do want to note here as well, you notice our officers now, we've gone to the second car, which is to the right. And I want to pay attention here, the one that's on the right again, Mike, that passenger, or it's the driver's side officer on the right side car. Boy, look at his backstop. He is literally skipping right up into the guy who laid down behind. So here, Just a reminder, bullets, they come at very shallow angles off of concrete. And so if you're gonna miss this guy, given where the problems are in front of you and the problem with the backstop behind you, you wanna miss low here if you're gonna miss, because then it'll skip up into him instead of going into the guy behind him.
John, can you confirm for me that's a single stack 45 we're looking at?
I can't confirm it necessarily. It doesn't look like he's rolling in a Glock, and I think LAPD does allow officers kind of a choice of firearms, and so it's very possible.
Okay, well in that case, I mean a 45, there's nothing else you need, right? I mean it's going to go through the guy, through the bottom of the pier, probably through a shark out in the ocean, because it's 45. To John's point, absolutely critical when there's something like this in the backstop. If you're going to miss, you miss low. This is not a shot I would want to have to take. But in the end, as we found out after the report comes out, look, nobody else got hurt but the bad guy. So again, I want to point out that although this seems dangerous, these officers are clearly very well trained. They're confident in their equipment. They're confident in their marksmanship and their training. So at the end of the day, although this was a scary shot for someone to have to take, he took it and no innocent people got hurt. I think that's the bottom line. That's the story I want to bring out of this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're skilled, right, then that covers any other problems that show up. I mean, you don't want to miss low either. You want to put your shots where you want them. You want your marksmanship skills so strong you don't miss. Simple as that. Now, I also want to notice here that in the lull, this officer decides to do what is known as a tactical reload. So you watch him here, he decides, okay, we're in a lull in the fight. I'm going to go and get a magazine and tactical reload, so I reload with retention. Now, I'm going to say this, that is a slower method of reloading. I prefer Tom Given's proactive reload. Just get the magazine out, drop that existing half-filled magazine to the ground and forget it exists, put the new one in the gun and go back to work. Because it's faster. Tom has been offering, I think, $10,000 for something like 20 years to anyone who can show that they needed rounds from a tactically retained magazine to win a gunfight, and he hasn't paid that money out. I think that's a holdover from the global war on terror, from the post 9/11 days, when, of course, as a soldier, you're going to keep going on patrol into the next place, into the next place, into the next place, and retaining those magazines is important. You've got at least 3 of them on your person, and that's why just drop it.
Yeah, 3 or preferably 4, as I used to carry when I was active duty in law enforcement. I'll say this about the tactical reload. I taught it as a firearms instructor because it was part of the syllabus. I had no say in, as far as the actual qualifications go, what the syllabus was. I had to follow, what I was given from Fort Benning. With that said, I think if you're doing something like this, the question is, what's more important, speed or the speed of getting more rounds in the gun, or retaining a magazine with 1, 2, or maybe 3 rounds in it? I'm going to go with speed every day of the week, especially a single stack. You should have probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 extra magazines on you because they're so slim. And I would say that getting more rounds in the gun quickly trumps saving those 2 or 3 rounds in that extra mag every day of the week, twice on Sunday.
Yeah, every day of the week. You want to keep that gun in the fight as long as you possibly can. And all the time you're futzing with retaining the magazine and those things aren't. Again, it was a lull in the fight. No harm, no foul here. He didn't end up firing any more rounds. It's just one of those things where I think it's a holdover. I think that it's kind of weathered with the passage of time, especially you've got 3, 4 extra magazines on you. Just drop it to the deck and carry on smartly. Now, the final thing I want to talk about here is the picture that we see of the perp's gun. That gun is it's a Glock pistol. There's no crapping on Glocks. Glocks are fine guns. It's experiencing a feedway stoppage is what it is. And we do see occasionally even Glocks have feedway stoppages. And the reason that we do is almost always on classes that we teach at Active Self-Protection and Live Fire, it's almost never a problem by anything other than the gun is dry. That dirty guns run just fine. Dry guns run like crap. And so, what I just say all the time, we do this, we see it all the time in classes. We lube the gun up, it runs great after that. So don't forget, for you as a good person, that you carry a concealed firearm, that it needs regular lubrication. And for most people who don't shoot all that often, I would recommend, at least once a quarter, getting that gun out, clearing it, putting a little lube in the right spots, and making sure that you've cleaned any lint and crap out of it. Or even better, Mike, shoot the crap out of the gun and then lube it every time you shoot.
Yeah, you know what? I'm one of those weird people. I really enjoy detailing I'm really James May in this way. I like detailing my car. I like cleaning my gun, so I don't mind doing it. I don't overdo it, right? But what John said is absolutely true. With any modern, mass-produced semi-automatic pistol, really the important thing is lubrication. Keep it lubed up. You don't listen. You don't have to put so much lube that it's, when you start shooting, it's smoking like a weed whacker engine or anything. Just enough to keep it running, because at the end of the day, if you're a good guy with a gun, you don't want this happening to you in the middle of a gunfight. And I think at the end of the day, these officers did a fantastic job, well trained, confident in their marksmanship, and they covered their ass.